Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. Today, I would like to talk about swearing in the professional environment. Is it ever okay, or is it always taboo? Sarah, kick us off.
Well, this is so funny because I was really curious about a topic before hopping on a camera. So of course I Googled it up, and the first thing comes up is how to swear professionally. I personally have an interesting input into that one. As a former athlete, cursing is one of the expressions of passion and power, and just when you're in the zone. I also have experienced the very opposite side of the spectrum as a professional, especially when you're working for somebody else. You watch how you talk, you address people in a very specific manner, and you don't allow your personality to come through. And then again, as an entrepreneur, being in this freedom of expression, embracing, especially for us women, like just say what you need to say. So I do believe personally that, yeah, it's okay, but I say the context matters, because if you're saying it just for the sake of saying it or to prove yourself, it's something entirely different than putting out an F word to make a point, or to, even as Tony Robbins said in his I'm Not Your Guru, like a pattern interrupt when somebody's when you're working with somebody. So I'm curious about what everybody else is thinking here.
Yeah, I would say that as a public relations professional, language is definitely very important to us. So I guess in my case, I think cursing, even professional cursing, is a huge no-no. Like, people can take your language in a completely opposite way to what you might actually mean. And it's important to acknowledge that regardless of what industry or groups that you're with.
Andy, what do you think?
Oh, I think I'm going to just key in on the one word that Sarah used, because I think I agree about 99% with what Sarah said. And that's rare for me because I love disagreeing with people, but it's that word context. And that's really the key there. It's how it's used, how it's done, when it's done, where it's done, the audience, whether it's interpersonal communications or professional communications. I think really when you get down to it, from a legal perspective, you want to look to a company's code of conduct to see how that is addressed, or whether it's addressed at all. And, I would always err on the side of caution. You don't want to start working for a company and the first thing you're doing is throwing down an F-bomb in a meeting, which brings me to a wonderful story, because about, I don't know, 10, 15, might have even been 20 years ago, that actually happened. I was in a room where it was a senior executive's first day, and the first thing they did was drop an F-bomb, and there was an HR complaint, which struck me as odd, but it really, really depends on the context. And when, where, how, etc.
I feel like, so when I talk to clients, obviously can be very passionate. Like, my clients and one-on-one, if my clients feel the need to articulate with swear words, I'm okay with that. Like, that's fine. They're not swearing at me. It's an expression. That's fine. In a professional setting where there's other people, and it can be, I agree, it can be taken completely out of context. So 100% with Andy there about err on the side of not, because if you use it, there's going to be a divide. Some people are going to be okay and some people aren't. And if you're trying to say, well, only my kind of people who are okay with cursing are going to, if that's your kind of filter, okay, but be aware that it is a pretty hefty filter.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would say to a certain extent, I do agree that there is definitely a time and place for some colorful language, I'm going to put it. But yeah, no, primarily, no. I don't know if I would actually be able to work as productively with somebody that is constantly cursing like a sailor, or just doesn't, read the overall culture of what everyone's doing in the
Is
group.
there a difference between cursing as in like using it as an adjective or whatever in a sentence and actually being angry and cussing at someone?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think that goes back again to Sarah's usage of the word context. So if you are cursing at someone and it's a direct, that's a much more egregious type of offense than if you are simply cursing in a passionate way to describe how you're feeling about a situation or something like that. It is, I think, never acceptable to be cursing at someone, but mildly permissible to be cursing at a situation. But unpacking a little bit more the original question of is it okay to be cursing in a professional environment? What is the definition of a professional environment? I mean, if we're talking about an office setting where people are working, there are going to be different rules that will apply than if you're talking about on a factory floor or a sales type of situation. Again, Sarah, it was really the perfect word, context.
When I'm wondering, because I know I have a client who's the only female in a male environment, and the men in the environment can be very crass. And they've said to her, well, you're in a male environment, you just have to deal with it. That's, in my world, that's not appropriate.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
This double standard also that I quickly referenced and very generalized earlier, when I think like cursing is nothing new. In fact, I think I just saw that in 14th century Pompeii, they found curse words in their writings. And then we have cursing like a sailor and everything else. But I think for women in particular, it was like this a no thing, because you have to be ladylike. You have to present yourself in a manner. You have to watch your language. You have to be likable. You have to censor yourself. So I have seen over the past couple of years, in particular in coaching business specifically, where there was this wave where dropping F-bombs left and right was almost a thing, because a couple of trailblazers almost gave permission to their clients, and now you could just see who is in their circles, because all of a sudden they're dropping F-bombs left and right, and I was like, this is not who you are. Like, you're acting, because you could feel the energy of a person, you can feel the disconnect. But if it comes genuinely, if you're really this like person who's uncensored and you throw it every once in a while, like I know I put it in a copy every once in a while when it's really charged, but not again cursing at somebody. But very rarely would I use it when speaking to the audience, or if I would, if it's a conversation like on a podcast with somebody else, say, hey, listen, we're gonna use colorful language. If you have little ears around, or if you're a professional setting, you might want to wait or put headphones in, just being mindful of the audience.
Well, and there's different levels of cursing, right? There's F-bombs, which seem to be, and some other words that are just really harsh words. And then there's some lighter curse words. Is that how
It's funny how like, the tolerance moves, right?
Right. Like there's some things that you might be able to say, and that might be okay. That might not. So I think there's a spectrum too of language and what's okay and what setting. So I think back to the point we said at the top, you have to be aware of your situation and where you are and the people that are around you. I think that's kind of the key takeaway. And I love what you said, Andrew, err on the side of just don't do it.
We
lost Sarah.
Oh, yeah.
That's all right. Oh, there she's back. We're almost out of time anyway, so it's all right.
Yeah, if you're in a more professional meeting where it's, people that are higher up above you, that's definitely a big no-no.
Well, thank you for spending this time with me. I've appreciated exploring cursing I can talk. I've enjoyed exploring cursing in a professional setting with you, and I look forward to our next conversation.